right, folks, so the government's latest gun amnesty initiative has attracted comments from criminologists and anthropologists. Social anthropologist and lecturer at the University of the West Indies, Dr. Herbert Gale, joins us via Zoom to discuss the effectiveness of these initiatives. Good morning, my friend, and welcome to Smile Jamaica. It's morning time. I hope all is well with you and your family.
Morning.
Morning, Doc.
Morning.
I want to start with a quote that was attributed to you. I hope it was what you said. And it says, an initiative like the gun amnesty is what we described as top-layered or reactive strategies rather than fundamental or formative strategies. Every time you look at addressing violence, you'll have to look at primary, secondary, and tertiary. But the more tertiary things you do, the less you will achieve. Explain that for me, please, sir.
Right. Okay. So if you look at how, first of all, violence is a byproduct of social ills. Humans are not primarily violent. We're primarily aggressive. So for us to transfer aggression to violence, there is a social issue or a set of social issues. So if you look at something as the result of something, you can't just be dealing with the symptoms all the time. You have to address what caused the problem. So if you ask any medical doctor, this is the same approach. So we look at how societies deteriorate to the point where you have murders beyond 30 per 100,000. And that deterioration would be at the primary, secondary, and tertiary levels. So primaries have to do with the fundamentals. The 4 blocks that make up what is called ontological security are your sense of tomorrow, which would be food, safe society, a safe community to live in, having stable parents and supportive parents, and finally, education and training. Now, any group of people who lack those 4 or 3 of those 4 is going to be relying on violence as a means of survival. So if you haven't addressed those 4 blocks that make up the ontological security or your sense of tomorrow, when I ask you what you're going to do tomorrow, you can tell me, right? Then doesn't matter what else on earth you do. It is simply about addressing the thing like a masking tape or giving a person morphine before a surgery, but don't give them the surgery. That's you wouldn't do that. So why do governments do that around the region in the LAC, Latin America and the Caribbean? The secondary level, of course, now would be the area of employment, the area that makes you address your family needs and all of those things. So mediation between people who are quarreling, right? A job, even if the job is temporary, stuff that occupies you. And then the tertiaries now are the things you do to stop a gap or to look busy. And I think the word look busy in Jamaica makes a lot of sense to people. You know, like Christmas come and everybody get a little crash program work and everybody just look busy. Or when people driving around in the community with flashing lights and so forth. Or if you have a peace treaty. A peace treaty, all of these things are tertiary and everybody can see them and they look like you're doing something. But if you don't provide, if you have a peace treaty between 2 people, that's visible. So everybody sees that. But then if you don't give them something to do together, to work together. So let's look at some of the peace treaties I've worked with. Once I work with a peace treaty between 2 gangs, the first thing I do is I try and get a group of people to employ them to work together. So that is secondary. And then I send them to school. That's primary. And so by the time you're finished, those gangs dissipate because that gang relationship dissipates because we've worked our way up all the way through. Now, if you just do a whole lot of visibles or tertiaries, lots of SOS, SOE, lots of things that are visible, but you're not making sure your children are in school. You're not making sure at the community level they are able, when mama says she's hungry, you know, there's no food. If you're not dealing with these things, if you're not even doing the secondaries, such as making sure there is stable employment, there is investing in mediation, investing in people having a center where they can go, where they can play, where there's recreation, right? If you're not doing these things and you're only doing all of these tertiaries, and then you're also doing a whole range of pilots. I've been begging Caribbean states to calm down on the pilots. Don't run a pilot next door to me where they get garbage pickup, they get their community cleaned up, and so forth. And my community is next door to that, watching that. That is what people should have been doing. That's what the state should have been doing. So a lot of things that people call, oh, this is a special community. That's what my community should have looked like. I pay taxes. You should have been picking up my garbage. You should have been cleaning my place. You should have had a community center. You should have provided skills. You should have had a connection to heart. All of these things are things that I am due as a citizen of Jamaica, not when you call my community special. And so this is what I'm talking about. You can't have these special frames, these surface things. You need to make sure you have some basic things.
All right.
When I next speak to a young man in Jamaica and I say to him, what do you intend to do in the next 5 years? He should have me an answer. He should say, well, I'm going to finish school. I'm going to go help mama. He should have something. When I sit down and talk to these young men and I say, oh, who herbs? I'll be in the next 5 years. I look like I will live for the next 5 years. When you face him in the road or he has a slight problem with somebody, right? What's the value of him not hurting you if he can't see what's happening in the next 5 years?
If he can't see, and I like how you said that, Doc, about, asking somebody, what is your tomorrow? And if they can answer that, then it looks like that's a strategy or strategic approach needed for crime prevention, is to make sure that every citizen of Jamaica can answer that question and know what they're doing tomorrow, that they are, fulfilling their needs and they're providing for themselves and their community. But with the current approaches to crime prevention, I would like to hear from you what's working and what's not working, and what do you suggest we do to refocus and get it right? Because we're going into 2021 and we are looking for a crime-free Jamaica. So from your observation, what's happening and what do we need to do differently?
The simplest way to approach development is to look at the blocks that 117 countries around the world, young people in 117 countries around the world, in research when we were students, said, if I have these 4 things, I will be safe. I will need to make sure I can eat. That's for girls. For boys, 2 things. I will need to ensure I can eat and mama can eat and sister can eat. So even if you give a male food and you don't give his family food, he is still going to be in a lot of trouble because he's going to go hunt it. Let me borrow Belizean words, then gone then gone catch and kill. You don't want kids to be telling them gone on road, gone catch and kill. What kind of language is that? But that language reflects their reality, right? You want to ensure that there is training for young people. You can't have 1,000, 2,000, 10,000 kids in a block leaving school and have no idea what on earth they're going to do. There's a lot of work that needs to be done on the social frame of Jamaica. And you know what fascinates me? Every time people talk about social intervention, they talk about 2 and 3 programs down the road. Those are visibles of social intervention. Social intervention is about making sure your ontological block is solid. If you look at those countries that are advertising that we don't even send people to prison anymore, they have a body system, they have a apprenticeship system. As soon as you leave school, you're connected to somebody or a company, right? We send 2, 3 young people to come work with Neville. Everybody is connected to somebody. We have up to 20% of Jamaican kids just floating around, and we're using stupid words like unattached. How can you be unattached? You're attached to somebody, just that what you're attached to is bad.
I have to jump in. Not the greatest way to end the interview because we could go on and go on, but time constraints. Great to see you. All the very best for the holidays for you and your family, sir. And thanks always for joining us.
Blessed up, my brother.
Yeah, man. Dr. Herbert Gale, social anthropologist and lecturer at the University of the West Indies.
And he had everything right except one thing.
What's that?
He gave an example of a youth being attached to you. Joke. From prison to the pulpit. Coming up next, Stacey Ann Garvey shares her story with Mr. Bell.
Yep.
She will be attached to him in that next interview. We'll be right back.